Hey everybody, it's been a long time. I haven't done a review or an unboxing on my own channel in what seems like forever, and it pretty much has been almost a year since I've done anything. A couple weeks ago, I finally got my Exemplar wet palette system from Game Envy in the mail, and it's been sitting in the box. I haven't had time to paint, haven't had time to test it, so I'd figure I'd give it, a run for its money here on camera. Probably just trying to do what I did with that other old wet palette video that I had done. I'm going to try and keep this one a lot shorter this time and just kind of run through how it works and see if it works well. Okay, so in the box, here's what we get. You have your, I haven't even opened it yet, the Exemplar wet palette system itself. Of course, I got the black one. So we'll see how that that turns out. You get a little pack of goodies here, and we'll go through all of that here in a second. And I got 2 of the bags of sponges and paper. So let me start with that. I want to start with that. So let's open this up and see what we got. The paper itself feels very similar to all the other papers, especially like this is the Army Painter paper here. And just because this is the palette I've been using forever. And the one that was in the review that I really like. I love this one. I've had this. You can tell I haven't used it in a while. But I love that one. Let's say this. I love that one. But it ends up getting a little cramped. Like I run out of space quick. So this gives me a little bit of extra real estate. You can see that's the size difference between the Army Painter and the Exemplar. Okay. The paper feels almost exactly the same. This feels smoother than this. There's a little bit more texture to this, which worries me a little bit. And we'll see if it happens. I hope that like those fibers don't wear off after a while, but probably doesn't. Okay, and then as far as the sponge goes, let's check that out. The sponge here, this is completely different than most of the other sponges. I don't know what to say. It feels okay. So the sponge for Army Painter is really stiff. It's really stiff when you get it, so you have to add water to get it to basically activate it. This has like a weird kind of, you hear that? Texture to it. Hopefully it works well. We'll see. We'll find out. Okay, in this little goodie bag, what's in here? There's one thing in here I really want to see. You get a sticker from Exemplar, Game Envy. You get another sticker. You get a business card. You get a squeegee. So that's what this is, okay? This is a squeegee to help get your air bubbles out of there, out of the underneath the paper and the sponge. What I've been using is this, which is a rubber squeegee that came with like a screen protector kit for a tablet that I had from Armor Suit, and I love this thing. So let's see if this thing does better. We'll find out. Comes with a little copper sheet to stick on the bottom of the wet palette underneath the sponge to cut down on mold buildup. And it came with this, which is a blotting sponge, okay, to help blot your paintbrush as you go. So let's get into the wet palette itself. Dun dun dun. Listen to that paper crinkle. Cha. Okay. All right. The first impression. Let's get this unpainted model out of the way. First impression. You got this really cool flip-up lid. Has a little palette inside. A regular palette to put paint on. Cleaning brush. This is where you cut. The blotting sponge goes in there. Cut it and put it in there. So you got enough for 3 times until it runs out. This feels really nice. All of this feels really nice. You can use this as storage for pretty much anything. If you want to go on the go, put your brushes in there, put some clippers in there. You can use it to rest your phone. Here's what I'm most excited about, though. So the Red Gas Games one, the problem I had was that I couldn't get a good seal. This is a seal that will help you. Let me flip this open. Push air out, and then you can feel the air closing and coming out of there. Help seal that air right in there, almost like a little vacuum seal. That's fantastic. I love that idea, and I'm glad somebody did it. There's 3 clips that close the lid down. Instead of just fitting together like the Army Painter where it just slides off. And again, I love this Army Painter one, but it goes right on there, and it relies on the elastic band to keep it closed. Not a perfect seal, but pretty good. This makes me feel better because it has that seal on there. Here's my other wet palettes. Here's the Red Grass Games from the original Kickstarter that we talked about. Same thing. This is the one I couldn't get a good seal on, and it relies on that elastic band as well to keep it closed. And the Masterson's just has nothing. Just clip it together. And you can feel the air coming out of it. This, I love that there's clips. It makes me feel better. So let's open it up. All right, the lid comes completely off. All right, that's pretty good. Now, let me put in the copper piece. So this thin copper sheet with adhesive backing goes right here. We're just gonna, and I just crinkled it up quite a bit. Oh no. So let's get that down. That shouldn't be a problem. I probably should have got more of those. You know what would be nice to get a whole bunch and layer it on there. That's supposed to cut down on mold. We'll see if it actually works. Here's the sponge. Fits really well. You can see that through there. I'll drive my OCD. Here's my distilled water. Look at it soak in. What does it feel like? Ooh. Feels nice. I don't like that you can see through the sponge. It's going to drive my OCD insane. What? All right. Got the sponge covered. But it kind of, how much water is it holding up? Swish it around a bit. Yeah, there. So there's some. We poured out. Leave some in there. Okay. I'm done. Piece of paper. Let's see how this paper curls. Does it curl? Now, it doesn't go all the way to the edge. It is curling. Let's try their squeegee. I like the texture on this. Kind of like a matte texture. Okay, so let's try some paint on. That's it. Drop of blue. And a drop. Let's just do a drop. Again, I do like the real estate available on this. There's a lot of area to work with. And I don't have red coming out. So I don't know what's wrong. Let's do a drop of purple. Drop of purple. There we go. So that one came out a little bit creamy. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let this sit for a little while, and we'll see how it happens. So let's get the lid back on. I don't like. Come on, corner. Okay. So far, so good. It could have been user error on my part. Let's do this. I'm gonna undo the vacuum seal. Okay, clip. clip, 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 press down, and then push that vacuum seal in. And let's see what happens with the Exemplar. Okay, I'm back. It's been 4 days since I've opened the Exemplar wet palette. I take that back. I opened it for a second to do one other video for the podcast, and I had to tilt this so the paint dripped a bit. But that's a good thing, because if you remember the last time I had this open, when I put the paint in, it was on there pretty thick. So it soaked up a ton of water through that sponge. So I haven't opened it in a couple days, but it's been 4 since I put the paint on, and that's where we are. So let's see what happened with the paint. The blue, still wet. A little thicker, a little dried up in the area. The pigment kind of separated, but that's more on the paint, I think, than the wet palette. I think with some water, you could totally bring this back. Let me just put a little bit of water on here. How does it feel, first of all? Still damp to the touch. Let's get some water there, and let me see. Comes right back. Although that separated quite a bit, and I think that was just, the paint, not the palette itself. So that still totally works. Over here, this is completely still okay. Pigment separated, but that's, again, that's not the wet palette's fault. Still totally workable after 4 days, which is fantastic. So my verdict here is Exemplar wet palette, fantastic. I really like this. I really like the way it, all the little accessories that come with it. I like the way that the squeegee works. I like the way that you have that little compartment. It's a lot more real estate, which is a fantastic thing. And I couldn't be happier with the Exemplar wet palette from Game Envy. I think it's still on Kickstarter, and let me just try. It's still on Kickstarter for, I think, late pledges and stuff. I just take some glaze medium and mix that in. Put a drop of glaze medium. And still totally activates. Still really nice. Still totally works. Impressed. 4 days that's been sitting there. 4 days. My only thing is now I wrecked my sponge already on the first thing. Not wrecked, but it stained it. I'm gonna go clean it out and see how well it does clean out. Okay, I just ran real quick and wrung out the sponge. I wanted to show you how clean it got. There's only a little bit of stain left. And the other really cool thing I noticed over at the sink, this thing feels like rubber when it's loaded with water. It's totally different than the other sponges. So I'm hoping that leads to more, being a better wet palette. So again, thanks Game Envy. A great wet palette. I really appreciate what you guys did in creating this. A lot more real estate. Might be a better water transfer system. The more I use it, the more I'll know. But I'm really happy with this purchase. Thanks for doing it, and I'll keep you posted how it goes.